Success wears a mask. It walks among us dressed in confidence, wrapped in trophies, framed in filtered highlights, but behind all of it, beyond the applause, beyond the strategies and self-help slogans, there are truths. Brutal truths, sacred truths. And most people will never tell you what they are, not because they're secrets, but because they're uncomfortable. But if you want to rise, if you want to truly, deeply succeed, not just in status, but in soul, not just in numbers, but in nature, you must be willing to hear what most people won't say. Because the path to success isn't paved in affirmation. It's carved in fire. It's walked barefoot uphill alone more often than not. And the ones who make it, the real ones, the ones who don't just reach success but embody it, they've all wrestled with these truths. The first, no one is coming to save you. It's not personal, it's universal. No mentor, no investor, no spouse, no parent, no government, no shortcut, no algorithm will come knocking with the perfect opportunity, the perfect timing, the perfect solution. And once you swallow that truth, really digest it, you stop waiting. You stop blaming. You stop outsourcing your future to other people's decisions. You begin. You begin with what you have, where you are, right now. You begin with what you can control: your attention, your habits, your standards. You begin by taking radical responsibility for your results. Not with shame, not with guilt, with ownership. Because ownership is the foundation of all success. You cannot build a kingdom on excuses. You cannot reach greatness if you're still rehearsing why you're stuck. The world doesn't respond to reasons. It responds to results. And the moment you stop begging life to give you a break and start becoming the break, that's when everything shifts. But that shift doesn't happen without the second truth. Discipline is more important than desire. Desire will start you. Discipline will finish you. Everyone wants it. Everyone dreams. Everyone scrolls through motivation, nods their head to podcasts, watches highlight reels of other people living the life they crave. But when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m., when the work gets boring, when the feedback stings, when the spotlight fades, when no one claps, will you still move? Because that's what separates the successful. Not charisma, not connections, not creativity. Consistency. They show up when they're tired. They show up when they're doubted. They show up when it's raining, when it's silent, when it's hard, when it hurts. Because they've trained their identity to be stronger than their emotions. They don't rely on motivation. They run on mission. And here's where it gets real. You won't always feel like it. You won't always feel inspired. But success doesn't care how you feel. Success cares about what you do. That's why discipline is sacred. It's the inner code that says, I do what's required, not what's comfortable. It's the proof that you don't just want it, you're willing to earn it. Day by day, hour by hour, rep by rep. And when you stay long enough in that fire, you'll meet the third truth. You will outgrow people. This one cuts, because growth is a shedding. And not everyone will grow with you. Not everyone will clap. Not everyone will understand. Some will mock you. Some will guilt you. Some will say you've changed, and they'll be right, you have. Because success requires evolution, and evolution requires separation. You will outgrow conversations that revolve around complaining. You will outgrow environments where ambition is called arrogance. You will outgrow habits that once brought you comfort but now cost you progress. And you'll try to bring people with you because your heart is kind, because your loyalty is deep. But some journeys are solo. Some breakthroughs require isolation. Some altitudes can't be reached in a crowd. And that loneliness, that ache of rising while others stay, it's real. But it's also proof that you're moving. You weren't meant to stay in rooms where your vision has to be explained. You were meant to create new rooms, to build new tables, to walk so boldly in purpose that those meant to rise with you will feel the pull and follow. Let them catch up. Don't shrink to keep them comfortable. Because your future, the one you're building in silence, it deserves your full stretch. And that brings us to the fourth truth. Success is not about what you get. It's about who you become. This is the deepest one, the most profound, the one that will whisper to you when the noise fades and the results come. Because the world will try to define you by numbers, follower counts, revenue, status, applause. But none of that lasts. None of that satisfies. Not truly. What lasts is character. What satisfies is integrity. What fuels you forever is becoming the kind of person who didn't just achieve success but deserved it. And that's a different kind of work. It's not visible. It's not sexy. It's not always applauded. But it's real. And it's rare. And it's required. Because when the money comes, when the pressure comes, when the world offers you everything you thought you wanted, only your character will decide if you keep it. So build yourself. Not just your brand, not just your business. Build your values. Build your resilience. Build your patience. Build your soul. Because that's where true success lives. Not on a stage, not in a bank account. In the quiet confidence of a person who rose not just once, but daily, who chose discipline over ease, growth over comfort, vision over validation. These are the truths. Not pretty, but powerful. And if you have the courage to live by them, to own them, to embody them, then success is no longer a possibility. It's a consequence of how you think, how you move, how you show up when it's silent, how you decide who you are when no one else is watching. Because the universe doesn't reward the loud. It rewards the aligned, the consistent, the relentless, the ones who stopped making excuses and started making movements. And yes, it's going to cost you. It'll cost you your comfort. It'll cost you your distractions. It'll cost you the illusion of safety. It might cost you relationships that can't see your next level. But what you gain is everything. You gain clarity that doesn't shake under pressure. You gain strength that doesn't depend on applause. You gain a presence that speaks louder than your words ever could. Because when you build yourself in truth, in these 4 truths, your energy changes. You no longer beg. You no longer chase. You attract. You command. You create. Not just success, but alignment, peace, influence, legacy. And that's the word most people never factor in. Legacy. Not what they remember about you, but what they inherit from you. Your work ethic, your mindset, your self-respect, your story. What will they learn from the way you led your life? Not how much you had, but how much of yourself you unlocked. Not what you owned, but how you showed up. Not what you achieved, but how you made them believe they could, too. Because real success isn't selfish. It spills over. It lights up the lives of others. It echoes across generations. And that echo, it begins with you, right now. Not when it's convenient. Not when everything is perfect. Now, while it's messy. Now, while it's unclear. Now, while it still feels like no one sees you. Because this is where the real ones are made. Not in the glow of recognition, but in the shadows of routine. This is where the habits are formed. This is where the fire is built. This is where the person you're becoming starts to take over the one you used to be. So lean in. Let the old version of you feel uncomfortable. Let your excuses scream. Let your doubts flare up one last time. And then move anyway. Move through the discomfort. Move through the fear. Move through the story that said success was for someone else. It's for you. It's always been for you. You just needed to learn the truth. No one is coming. Discipline is everything. You will outgrow people. And this isn't about what you get, it's about who you become. Hold those truths. Live those truths. Build with them. And watch as the world begins to respond to the version of you that was never waiting, only becoming. And that becoming, that slow, invisible, painful, glorious becoming, is the real currency. Not your titles, not your trophies, but your transformation. Because success doesn't ask what you want. It asks who you're willing to become in order to hold what you say you desire. And if the answer is the same person I've always been, then success will stay just out of reach, not because you're unworthy, but because you've chosen to remain unchanged. Growth is not a suggestion. It's a demand. And life will keep testing your resolve until your habits match your hunger. That's what the great ones know. They know the dream is expensive, and they pay in full. In early mornings, in hard choices, in quiet sacrifices, in hundreds of reps when no one's clapping, in turning down what's easy for what's eternal. They've buried the version of themselves that needed permission. They've released the need to be understood. They've traded short-term comfort for long-term power because they know if the vision is real, the cost is worth it. And the cost is always paid in identity. You don't attract what you say you want, you attract what you are. Your results are always chasing your character. That's why the rich, truly rich in freedom, fulfillment, and fire, they don't chase success as an escape. They embody success as a reflection of the truth they live, even when no one's looking. So ask yourself right now, not casually, but confrontationally, am I becoming the person who deserves the life I say I want? Not do I want it, everyone wants it. Am I becoming it? Am I practicing discipline like it's sacred? Am I cutting the weight of relationships that keep me small? Am I walking with ownership, or am I still narrating my victim story? Because this is the line in the sand. This is the moment you stop consuming success and start constructing it. Not in sprints, in systems, not in hype, in habits, not in one day, but in every day. This is how success really happens, not in some breakthrough event, but in the choice to no longer ignore these four truths, to no longer numb them, to no longer pretend you can cheat the process and still earn the promise. You can't, but you don't need to, because inside you right now is the blueprint, the power, the fire, the rhythm, the spirit, not just to reach success, but to redefine it in a way that changes everything. You just have to stop looking for shortcuts and start building standards. Standards that say, I don't need to be rescued, I rescue myself. I don't wait for motivation, I move in mission. I don't fear growth, I live in it. I don't chase the world, I build from within. Because the truth is, you were never broken. You were just buried. Buried under excuses. Buried under old beliefs. Buried under someone else's idea of what success should look like. But not anymore. This is the unearthing. This is the rising. This is the moment where you stop seeking success as a destination and start becoming it as your identity. Fully, boldly, relentlessly. And once you become that version of yourself, success won't be able to ignore you. The world won't be able to forget you. And your legacy will never be the same. Because legacy doesn't begin when your work is done. Legacy begins the moment you decide to live different. Not louder, not faster, not more consumed, but more clear, more disciplined, more rooted in who you truly are and what you came here to do. You didn't come here to be a copy. You didn't come here to play safe. You didn't come here to die full of potential. You came here to build something that outlasts you. You came here to become so dangerously aligned with your vision that mediocrity becomes allergic to your presence. And yes, it will be hard. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be tested. You'll have to let go of what once felt like everything. But that's the toll for truth. That's the price for peace. That's the rent success charges for a seat at its table. And it's worth it. Every step, every scar, every silent morning where you move forward without applause, without clarity, without evidence, but still you move. That's what most won't do. That's what makes you rare. Because most are still negotiating with their calling, still waiting for the right time, still bargaining with fear, asking for guarantees before they start. But you know now, there are no guarantees, only truths. And these four truths, they're not warnings, they're invitations. Invitations to stop dipping your toes in transformation and dive all the way in. Invitations to stop reading about discipline and start bleeding for it. Invitations to stop blaming your circle and start building your standard. Because the life you want is not waiting for your wish. It's waiting for your warrior, the one who leads, the one who loves deeper, the one who stands taller, the one who looks the truth in the face no matter how inconvenient, how confrontational, how heavy, and says, let's go. Let's go to the gym when it's cold. Let's go to the work when it's thankless. Let's go to the journal when it's messy. Let's go to the mirror when it's brutal. Let's go into the fire, because the fire is where I forge. This is not about hype. This is about heat. The kind of heat that breaks chains. The kind of heat that melts old identities. The kind of heat that leaves nothing behind but what is real. Because when you walk in truth, nothing can touch you. Not doubt, not delay, not rejection, not failure. Because you're no longer chasing an outcome. You're walking in a standard. The standard of someone who knows. No one is coming to save me. Discipline will build me. I will outgrow people. And the point was never what I could collect. It was always who I could become. That's the freedom. That's the fire. That's the foundation of real success. And once you build from there, there's no ceiling. There's no turning back. There's no version of you left that still wants to play small. Only a future so bright, it makes fear irrelevant. Only a mission so clear, it makes noise fade. Only a soul so anchored, it makes storms meaningless. Because you don't just want success. You've become it. And once you become it, not act like it, not perform it, not imitate it, but truly become it, the world no longer holds power over you. You no longer react to circumstances. You create regardless of them. You no longer seek permission. You command space. You no longer compete for attention. You attract what aligns. And that level of self-possession, it's unshakable. Because you've already paid the price. You've already buried the parts of you that beg to be saved. You've already bled for the wisdom most only read about. You don't just know the truth, you are the truth now. You walk with the posture of someone who has built from the dust. You speak with the clarity of someone who has sat in the storm and come out clean. You think with the power of someone who no longer flinches at the dark because they've learned to bring their own light. This is not the version of you that settles. This is not the version of you that compromises. This is not the version of you that folds to pressure. This is the version of you that lives on purpose. Not for the applause. Not for the validation. Not for the image. But because it's who you are now, you are no longer trying to achieve success. You are embodying the identity that success must respond to. And when you do that, when your thoughts match your standards, when your habits reflect your hunger, when your circle echoes your direction, when your mornings are built on mission instead of mood, success becomes the side effect. It finds you. It follows you. It flows to the one who lives in truth. So let the world keep searching for secrets. Let them keep buying blueprints. Let them keep waiting for the right time. You've seen the truth. You've felt the truth. You are the truth. And now you're too aligned to be denied. Too refined to be rattled. Too rooted to be moved. Because once you embrace the truth about success, really embrace it. You stop chasing moments and start building movements. You stop chasing freedom and start walking in legacy, not because you had it easy, but because you had the courage to live by the truths no one else would admit, and the discipline to become what no one else was willing to become. So now, when the noise comes, and it will come, you don't shrink, you stand. Because your foundation isn't built on luck or likes or someone else's permission. It's built on truth, on fire-tested, soul-anchored, unbreakable truth. And that truth, it can't be faked. It can't be borrowed. It can't be outsourced. You either live it or you don't. And those who live it truly live it. They don't need to prove anything. Their life proves it. Their results whisper what their mouth doesn't need to say. I paid the price. I did the work. I became the one who doesn't wait for inspiration, the one who creates clarity when the fog is thick, the one who keeps building while others are breaking, because you no longer fear the work. You no longer resent the process. You no longer fantasize about success without the suffering. You welcome it. You welcome the discipline. You welcome the discomfort. You welcome the silence, the pruning, the shedding, because now you know every bit of it is carving the version of you who can't be shaken. And that's the only version of you who can carry success without collapsing under it. So let the world keep running in circles. Let them keep chasing shiny tactics and shortcut formulas. You've chosen the higher way, the rare way, the real way, the way of self-leadership, the way of extreme ownership, the way of becoming unrecognizable to who you used to be. And now, every move you make is a message. Every breath you take is a statement. I don't fear success. I'm built for it. And when the next test comes, not if, but when you won't flinch. Because the truth doesn't need protection. The truth stands on its own. So rise now, not just in results, but in reputation. The kind of reputation that says, this is someone who lives in the fire and still builds. This is someone who doesn't ask for less pressure, they grow into more power. This is someone who is done pretending, done delaying, done playing down. This is someone who knows the four truths and decided to live by them. And that decision? That's the beginning of the real success story. Not one that ends with riches, but one that starts with them. Rich in standards, rich in resilience, rich in peace, rich in alignment, rich in self-respect, rich in truth. Because once you choose to live by the truth, success becomes inevitable. You were not born to be cheap. You were not born to be a discount version of yourself, marked down by comparison, negotiated down by fear, repackaged to be more palatable for people who never had the capacity to value you in the first place. You were born with worth that cannot be priced, but that doesn't mean the world won't try. Every day, in every room, in every exchange, life is asking you one question. What is your value? And most people answer with silence. They answer with small moves. They answer with hesitation. They answer with lifestyles that scream compliance. But not you. Not anymore. Because if you want to rise, if you want to live not just with success, but with significance, then you must know the truth that your value is not set by society, salary, or superficial praise. It is set by three things, three forces that never lie, three traits that define the altitude of your influence, the depth of your impact, the size of your income, and the strength of your presence. And the first is this, your standards. Your standards will either elevate your life or erode it. They are the silent architects of everything you do, everything you tolerate, everything you become. What do you allow? What do you walk past? What do you settle for? What do you excuse in the name of realism when what you're really doing is negotiating with mediocrity? Your standards are not about being perfect. They are about being precise. Precise with your time. Precise with your words. Precise with your goals. Precise with who gets to access your energy. Because access is earned, not owed. And every time you lower your standard to meet someone else's comfort, you are telling life, I'm not ready for more. Rich people don't set standards based on emotion. They set them based on vision, on identity, on who they are becoming, not who they've been. If you value yourself, you protect your space like sacred ground. You don't let chaos rent a room in your mind. You don't let average sit at your table just because it came with a smile. You don't tolerate what drains you just because it's familiar. Because when you raise your standards, your life has to rise to meet them. That's law. The second thing that will always determine your value, your consistency, not your potential, not your passion, your patterns. Potential means nothing without pattern. Desire means nothing without discipline. Ambition means nothing if it dies in the dark every time motivation leaves. You want to be valuable? Be consistent. Be consistent when it's quiet. Be consistent when no one claps. Be consistent when it's boring. Be consistent when you're tired. Because the world rewards the ones who stay, not the ones who start loud and fade, not the ones who talk big and deliver small, but the ones who show up no matter what. You don't get paid for having talent. You get paid for using it relentlessly. You don't gain respect for being gifted. You gain respect for being dependable. Because consistency is not about routine, it's about reputation. And when your reputation is built on resilience, reliability, and results, your value increases whether the world notices today or not, because your value is no longer external. It's proven. And finally, the third force, your ability to solve problems. Your value is directly connected to the problems you can solve and the speed, precision, and energy with which you solve them. The bigger the problem, the higher the paycheck. The deeper the pain you can heal, the wider the door opens. The faster you can bring clarity where there's confusion, the more impossible it becomes to ignore you. You don't get paid for your presence. You get paid for your impact. So ask yourself, can I bring peace where others bring panic? Can I bring solutions where others bring excuses? Can I bring strategy where others bring reaction? If you can, you will never be out of work. You will never be out of opportunity. You will never be replaceable because you're not just a body in the room. You're the force that shifts the atmosphere. The world doesn't care about your resume. It cares about your resourcefulness. When something breaks, can you fix it? When a client panics, can you calm them? When a team stalls, can you lead them? When the pressure rises, can you deliver? That's value. That's what sets people apart. That's what builds empires in silence. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not noise, not hype, not volume. Solutions. You were not born to be common. You were not designed to blend in. You were not put here to match the room. You were put here to change it. And if you want to change the room, raise your standards. If you want to be undeniable, master your consistency. If you want to build wealth, legacy, impact, become the one who solves the problem no one else will touch. That's how value is made. That's how value is felt. Not because you say it, because you live it. Because your life becomes the living proof that says, I'm not for sale, I am the standard. And once you become the standard, the world has no choice but to raise its offer. Because the world will always pay attention to the one who brings certainty in uncertain times. It will always chase the one who moves with conviction when others hesitate. It will always elevate the one who doesn't just talk value, but embodies it with every breath, every move, every minute of the day. And that embodiment, it doesn't happen by accident. It's built in the dark, built in the repetition, built when you say no to distractions and yes to becoming. Because the real test of your value isn't what you do when the spotlight is on. It's what you do when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when you have every reason to quit and you don't. That's when your value multiplies. Not because the world saw it, but because you did. Because you stopped living by price tags and started living by principles. Because you stopped asking the world to validate you and started validating yourself with discipline. And when you walk like that, talk like that, think like that, you don't need to ask for a seat at the table. You become the table. You don't ask, what am I worth? You demonstrate it. Not by volume, but by value. Not by noise, but by nobility. Not by force, but by frequency. The frequency of a person who knows exactly what they bring into every room, every deal, every opportunity. And that frequency, it can't be faked. It's built through a life of alignment. When your thoughts match your standards, when your habits match your hunger, when your words match your work, when your decisions match your destiny, that's where value is born. That's where transformation lives. That's where legacy begins. So, if you want to increase your value, don't start with others. Start with you. Start with your standards. What do you accept? What do you demand from yourself? What have you tolerated too long that's quietly killing your greatness? Then go to your consistency. What do you repeat when no one's pushing you? Are your habits building momentum or just motion? Is your life a performance or a practice? And then ask the hardest question of all, what problems do I solve? Do you leave people better? Do you leave systems sharper? Do you bring peace into chaos? Do you make things easier, clearer, faster, stronger, just by being in the room? If the answer is yes, then you are not just valuable, you are irreplaceable. And the irreplaceable never have to convince anyone of their worth. They don't beg. They don't compete. They don't chase. They choose. They choose what they build. They choose how they move. They choose who gets access because they know my value is not up for debate. My value is reflected in my standards, proven by my consistency, and multiplied by the problems I solve. And when you live like that, fully, boldly, unapologetically aligned, you don't just rise. You redefine what's possible. And that redefinition isn't loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it. Because when you walk with true value, the world adjusts to your presence. Rooms get quieter. People listen closer. Opportunities move toward you instead of past you. Not because you forced your way in, but because you've become the person who can't be ignored. And becoming that person, becoming the standard, is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you were always meant to be. Stripped of insecurity, raised in purpose, refined through fire. Because value is not about potential. It's about proof. And proof is earned. You prove it when you say no to the job that insults your gift. You prove it when you raise your prices and don't flinch. You prove it when you protect your focus like it's your lifeline, because it is. You prove it when you walk away from tables where your presence is not honored, not with anger, but with certainty, because you know, I don't belong here. I belong higher. And that mindset, that's what makes you rich long before the money comes. That's what makes you a leader long before the title arrives. That's what makes you a builder of worlds, a creator of legacy, not because of what you have, but because of who you are becoming every single day. So stop chasing validation. Start chasing calibration. Calibrate your standards to match your calling. Calibrate your habits to match your hunger. Calibrate your mindset to match your mission. And then keep going. Keep showing up when it's boring. Keep executing when it's not trendy. Keep solving problems that others avoid. Keep living like someone who already knows where they're going, because the fastest way to become valuable is to move like you already are. You want influence? You want wealth? You want to live a life that turns heads and changes generations? Then build yourself like someone who's worth more than money. Because money will fade. Trends will shift. Followers will come and go. But value, real, soul deep, disciplined, refined value never expires. It compounds. And one day, when they look at your life, the results, the reach, the presence, the peace, they'll ask how you did it. And you won't need to say a word. Your value will answer for you. Because value speaks louder than voice. It echoes in your discipline. It drips from your decisions. It radiates from the way you carry yourself, not just in public, but in private. It's in how you rise before the sun because you made a promise to your future self. It's in how you decline distractions disguised as opportunities. It's in how you handle delays not as defeats, but as refinements. Because the most valuable people on earth aren't the loudest. They're the most aligned. And alignment is a force money can't match. Alignment lets you walk into a negotiation knowing what you're worth, not because of ego, but because of evidence. It lets you turn down quick wins for long-term dominance. It lets you sacrifice popularity for principle. You want to know the truth? You don't become valuable by being visible. You become visible by being valuable. Value is the root. Visibility is the fruit. If you chase the fruit and ignore the root, your tree will fall the first time the storm hits. But if you build deep with standards that won't bend, with consistency that doesn't crack, with the courage to solve problems others run from you, don't just grow, you tower. You rise above the noise, above the trends, above the chaos of a culture that confuses hype for substance. You become a force, and forces don't beg for recognition, they command respect. So if the world hasn't noticed you yet, don't panic. Don't question your worth. Don't lower your value just to speed up visibility. Keep building. Build in silence. Build in service. Build in standards so strong they scare the old version of you. Because the truth is, the old version of you was never ready for this level. The one who flinched when people didn't understand. The one who watered down your voice so you wouldn't be too much. The one who asked permission from people who hadn't built anything of their own. But you're not that version anymore. You've upgraded. You've outgrown it. You've stepped into a new season where you don't ask, what am I worth? You know. And the answer is not a number. It's not a title. It's not the size of your following. The answer is this. I am worth what I'm willing to demand from myself. Because that's where all value begins, not in the market, not in the mirror, but in the mind. And once you've built your mind with that kind of fire, that kind of focus, there's not a force on earth that can stop what you're becoming. Because when you become, you no longer chase what you already carry. You no longer need to convince. You no longer need to conform. You no longer need to explain why you don't move like the rest, because you're not built like the rest. You were not designed to be accessible to everyone. You were not made to fit into templates created for people with no vision. You were not called to be common. You were called to be complete. And the most complete people, the ones who walk with presence, speak with clarity, move with weight, they are not lucky. They are forged. Forged in repetition. Forged in rejection. Forged in restraint. Forged in 1,000 quiet decisions that no one ever sees, but everyone feels. Because value is felt. It's in the air when you enter. It's in the silence when you speak. It's in the eyes of people who recognize something different in you, even if they can't name it. That different isn't mystery, it's mastery. You've mastered your energy. You've mastered your emotions. You've mastered the art of choosing your highest self in a world that keeps selling you shortcuts. And that choice, that's the reason your value grows. That's the reason your presence multiplies. That's the reason your influence deepens, not because you've shouted louder, but because you've built deeper. So let them underestimate you. Let them overlook you. Let them question your silence. Let them misread your patience for pause. Because when the world finally catches up to what you've been building, it won't be able to ignore you. It won't be able to afford to. You'll be the standard. You'll be the blueprint. You'll be the signal in a generation full of noise. Not because you marketed well, but because you moved well. And that movement anchored in standards, fueled by consistency, validated by the problems you solve, will speak for you. Louder than a title, louder than applause, louder than every doubter who once mistook your silence for absence. Because you weren't absent. You were rising. And now that you've risen, now that you know the weight of your value, you'll never let the world put a discount on your identity again. You'll never shrink again. You'll never explain again. You'll never trade your essence for acceptance again. Because value, true value, doesn't bend. It builds. And when value builds, it becomes unbreakable. Not because it's never tested, but because it's tempered. Not because it never wavers, but because it knows how to anchor. Not because it's loud, but because it's rooted so deep, no wind can uproot it. And you've paid for that depth. You've walked through the fire of refinement. You've been misunderstood in rooms too small for your vision. You've held your tongue when others begged for noise. You've said no to good things to make space for greatness. You've held the line. You've raised the bar. You've buried the version of you that begged for scraps. And now you lead. Not just people, you lead yourself. Because that's what the highest value people do. They lead themselves when no one's watching. They hold themselves accountable when no one else does. They move from principle, not pressure. They act from clarity, not chaos. Their value isn't market-driven. It's mission-driven. And that mission, it never ends. It evolves. It expands. It pulls more out of you. It calls you to more excellence, more courage, more alignment. Because your value isn't just about what you produce. It's about what you carry. You carry presence. You carry peace. You carry precision in a world that celebrates speed. You carry standards in a world that sells compromise. You carry legacy in a world obsessed with likes. And legacy doesn't ask for attention. Legacy demands alignment. That's what you've stepped into now. A life that reflects your value not just on paper, but in posture. A mindset that can't be manipulated. A frequency that can't be faked. So when the world asks, what's your worth? You won't flinch. You won't justify. You won't shrink. You'll live the answer. In how you walk. In what you tolerate. In what you choose to build. In what you refuse to allow. Because now you understand. Value is not a number. It's a non-negotiable. It's a North Star. It's the signature of your soul that says, I don't lower to be chosen. I rise to be remembered. And in that rise, slow, silent, sovereign, you won't just become valuable. You'll become undeniable.